Morning. My name is Sergeant Kovac. I'm with the Austin Police Department Homicide Unit. We are here today to provide a briefing on the homicides that occurred at the Fort Branch Apartments at 5800 Technicenter Drive on the 8th of February 2023, as well as a homicide that occurred in the 600 block of East 6th Street at the Texas Lottery Commission on the 19th of February 2023. Up here with me today, I have detectives from the Homicide Unit. I have Detective Cunningham. I have Detective Rodriguez. I also have Detective Judd with the Robbery Unit, as well as Sergeant Griggers with the Robbery Unit. We're here to provide just some background on the investigation into these two homicides, as well as the information on the suspect that was identified and subsequently charged in these two homicides, who has been identified as Abraham Kalor. So for the beginning of the first investigation, I'm going to hand it off to Detective Cunningham.
Hi, I'm Detective Rhiannon Cunningham with Homicide. I am the lead investigator on murder from earlier this month at Technicenter, and I'm going to give you guys the background information on that case right now. On February 8th, 2023, at approximately 12:08 p.m., the Austin Police Department Communications Center received a 911 call about a male that was shot and lost control of his car in the parking lot of 5800 Technicenter Drive. That's the Fort Branch Apartments. The caller provided a license plate and vehicle description of a white Volkswagen Jetta as the vehicle that crashed. On-scene civilians made contact with the male driver of the vehicle, Carlos Calleja, who appeared to have been shot. Life-saving measures were performed by on-scene civilians and responding emergency personnel, but the victim succumbed to his wounds at 12:31 p.m. Homicide detectives, APD Crime Scene Unit, and the Travis County Medical Examiner arrived to process the scene. Marijuana was located inside the victim's vehicle. Social media messages discovered on the victim's phone indicated that he was at the location to sell marijuana to the suspect, who used the screen name of Lil AK. The messages outline the detail of the sale. The suspect instructs the victim where to meet him within the apartment complex. These messages stop once the victim tells the suspect he has arrived, which is just minutes prior to the victim having crashed his vehicle. Several violent crimes detectives were familiar with the subject, who used the moniker of Lil AK on social media. They identified the individual as Abraham Kalor. I'm now going to turn things over to Robbery Detective Matthew Judd, who is going to discuss the history and violent crime association of Abraham Kalor.
Good morning, Detective Matt Judd. I'm assigned to the Violent Crime Division, APD Robbery Unit. I'm here to discuss 2021 Robbery Series 40. This series occurred in the fall of 2021. From September 20th, 2021 through October 2nd, 2021, the Austin Police Robbery Unit investigated a series of 5 aggravated robberies involving deadly weapons. These cases were linked together as a series based on similar suspect descriptions, similar methods, and similar locations. This robbery included 2 carjacking-style robberies, a home invasion-style robbery, and 1 robbery of an individual. In one of the carjacking robberies, a firearm was discharged near the victim. 3 of the vehicles stolen in the carjacking robberies were located at the Fort Branch Apartments. As the investigation unfolded, 2 suspects were identified, a juvenile male and an adult male, identified as Abraham Kalor, aka Lil AK. Kalor was a known suspect to the robbery unit based on previous arrests for aggravated robbery in 2018 and 2019. After a thorough investigation, detectives found probable cause existed to charge Abraham Kalor with 3 counts of aggravated robbery, a first-degree felony. Kalor was arrested in October of 2021 and indicted. In February of 2023, our colleagues in the Homicide Unit advised they were investigating a murder with a suspect who had the name Lil AK. Detectives of the Robbery Unit immediately recognized that nickname as belonging to Mr. Abraham Kalor. In an abundance of caution, we checked jail records to check Mr. Kalor's status to determine whether he was in custody during the time of the murder. At that time, we learned Mr. Kalor had been released from custody in July of 2022. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Detective Rodriguez with the Homicide Unit.
Hello, my name is Detective Rodriguez with the APD Homicide Unit. I am the lead investigator on the homicide that occurred on February 19th of this year. Second homicide in the same month with the same suspect, Abraham Kalor. On February 19th, 2023, at approximately 8:37 p.m., the Austin Police Department Communications Center received a 911 call about shots fired in the parking lot of the Texas Lottery Commission. A male, later identified as Abraham Kalor, was observed running southbound away from the gunshots toward the 600 block of East 5th Street. Responding officers located Abraham Kalor in the 600 block of East 5th Street in possession of a black shoulder bag containing marijuana inside. Kalor was found to have an outstanding warrant for aggravated robbery, a first-degree felony, in which he was arrested. A second subject, later identified as Anthony Brown, was located in the parking lot of the Texas Lottery Commission with a gunshot wound near his left abdomen. Life-saving measures were performed by responding emergency personnel, but the victim succumbed to his wounds at 9:17 p.m. During the course of this investigation, several witnesses were interviewed in relation to this case. Abraham Kalor and Anthony Brown met in the parking lot of the Texas Lottery Commission to conduct a transaction for marijuana. During the course of this transaction, Abraham Kalor pulled out a firearm and shot Brown, causing his death. On February 23, 2023, I obtained an arrest warrant charging Abraham Kalor for the murder of Anthony Brown for a first-degree felony.
So just in summary, as of this morning, Mr. Abraham Kalor has been charged with 2 separate counts of first-degree murder for the cases against the victims of Carlos Calleja, as well as the case where the victim Anthony Brown was also shot and killed. Have any questions at this time?
Would you guys have liked to have seen Kalor in custody longer than he was? He was released, less than a year after the original incident with the cars?
Yeah, we're not here to discuss about releases or anything like that. We're just here to talk and advocate for the victims and the victims' families.
Was he convicted of those robberies and carjackings and home invasions, or was he simply charged against the adjudicated?
I would refer you to the Travis County District Attorney's Office and the court records for that information.
After the
Technicenter?
Thank you. Technicenter Drive incident, the department had said this was an isolated incident and there was no threat to the public, but then this person went and ended up killing someone later.
Correct. So at the time that we started investigating that, we had very limited information. We knew that it did involve a narcotics transaction, and that was between those 2 individuals at that time. And so that's why it was reported that it was an isolated incident at that time, because it wasn't that he was just out randomly committing violent acts against random people on the street.
What social media app was he using?
Oh, he was using Snapchat for that one.
What about the other ones? Was there any other apps for any of the other transactions? Do you guys know?
In regards to the homicides? Not that we can tell right now.
So when does he come on police radar? Like you mentioned that the previous crimes that he was accused of committing. Like has he been known to this department for a while? I know he's 18, so we can't get into some of this, but was he known to police before he's 18?
You're talking about specifically involvement with Austin?
In Austin.
Austin Police, yes. That's what we were saying earlier, is that we had, in the robbery unit, we had a previous investigative history of him dating back to 2018. That's why little AK was so familiar to us, and we were able to identify him pretty quickly.
Was anybody hurt in those the home invasion carjackings?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Was anybody hurt in the home invasion and the carjackings?
No, however, it was the series of robberies was a pretty intricate series of robberies and very intense. They happened in a short period of time. Specifically on the one, a firearm was discharged right next to a victim. Another one, suspect actually entered into the victim's residence, or the VRBO the victim was renting at that time. But yeah, it was a pretty intense, violent series.
Can you guys address how you become aware of the social media activity and how this ultimately ended up leading to?
Sure. So just like cell phones are used in people's everyday life, social media is an integral part of people's communications. I mean, I think we can all agree on that, right? I mean, we're streaming this on social media right now. So that is something that has just become integral as far as what we look into whenever we start conducting search warrants and we start looking at ways to communicate. Obviously, social media platforms have become almost more in lines with communication between individuals from their day-to-day activities, even more than like messaging, text and phone calls and things like that. So the question, to answer the question, is it's something that we look at in all cases because it's just, like I said, it's so integrated in day-to-day society now.
Do you think there's anything more to this investigation? Have you had any more that associates that Clips would want to be implicated in this other?
At this time, during our homicide investigations, no, we do not believe that there was anybody else that he was implicated in at this time, according to our investigation at this point. What's that?
He acted along with all of this?
As far as we know. Now, in the prior robbery series, they may have more information on that one.
In the robbery series, there was another individual. We can't discuss that. The person was a juvenile.
Could you just kind of tell us where we're at homicide-wise for this year, what number this is?
We're currently at 15 homicides for this year.
Okay. How does that kind of compare to like last time?
We're about on track for the same spot we were at last year. I believe we were at I don't have the exact numbers, but around 14 or 15 about the same time last year.
What's your message for people that think that they're being anonymous if they're using Snapchat for illegal activity?
To be very cautious in their activities. Obviously, illegal activity is a high-risk lifestyle to begin with. If you're conducting narcotics transactions via these types of social media platforms and you think you're being anonymous, even if you think you're meeting with a complete stranger, you're putting yourself at extreme risk to be a victim of violent crime and or murder or something like that. I mean, obviously, we've seen that throughout the course of the history of the crimes we've investigated here, that we've highlighted here, as well as many others y'all have received press releases for this year and last year as well.
I would add to that the robbery unit investigates dozens per year of such things as like Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or anything like that, to where individuals are kind of lured to certain locations. So we just tell you to be very, very careful. Try not to go alone. Do as much information digging as you can to figure out who you're going to meet with. Anything else? Thank y'all.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you guys very much.